Hi, welcome back to another episode here on Creepy with Coffee. I'm Kim, your storyteller. First and foremost, I wanted to apologize due to work commitment, so I've not been uploading for a number of days. But for today's story, it came from a person named Nina, obviously not her real name. Says, have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when you were completely alone? When I first moved into my dorm, I thought I was just another student trying to get used to new environment. But strange things started happening. Footsteps in the night, missing belongings, and overwhelming feeling that I wasn't alone. At first, I tried to ignore it, but then I learned the truth. Like usual, before we begin with our story, if you have yet to do so, please help me like, share, and also subscribe to the channel. It would definitely help this channel a lot. Now, let's get on to the story.
This is Creepy with Coffee.
I'm Nina, a 4th form student at a prestigious daily school. I came from a small village far from the city. In pursuit of a better education, my parents decided to send me to the school and have me stay in a dorm near the school but not part of the school. At first, I was happy. I was excited about dorm life. The old building where I and other students live looked ordinary. Despite being over 20 years old, it still stood firm. A dorm warden, a woman in her 40s, always reminded us to maintain cleanliness and proper conduct in the dormitory. However, as time passed, I started feeling that something was off. I tried convincing myself that everything was fine, it was just myself. I wasn't someone who gets scared easily. But this time, a small voice inside me whispered, warning me that something that shouldn't be there was. This is the beginning of the disturbances. The first night there was peaceful, second night was the usual. But after a few weeks, something changed. I started hearing footsteps when everyone was already asleep. It wasn't just any footsteps. They sounded like someone walking slowly, but with wet feet. Yet, when I peeked out of the bedroom, no one was there. One night, I heard the sound of a table being dragged in the corner of the room. I was sure that I wasn't dreaming. But then when I turned on the lights, everything looked normal. The furniture, the table, were all in their original position. I tried to ignore it, or maybe it was just my imagination. But when my belongings started disappearing and reappearing in strange places, it started to get very weird. For example, I would have my clothes disappeared from the wardrobe. No matter how I searched for it, it just wasn't there. But the next day when I woke up, it's neatly folded under my bed. Or sometimes it would appear on top of the wardrobe, not the usual position where it was hanging in the wardrobe. All of this making me grow uneasy. But what was even more terrifying was that I often wake up in the middle of the night with the feeling that someone was standing beside my bed. The chills sank deep in my bones. I gathered the courage to look around, but every time I did, nothing was there. I wanted to believe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but the longer it went on, the harder it became to lie to myself. One day, I woke up finding scratches on my arm. Not the usual scratches. At first, I thought I might have scratched myself in the sleep. But then, the marks were too deep to be mere accidental scratches. I showed them to my friends, but they brushed it off, saying I was just stressed or letting scary stories get to me. I tried not to overthink it, but the disturbances grew worse. One night, I was chatting with my roommate, Aina. We were sharing our experiences in the dorm when she suddenly asked, "Have you heard about Ella?" I shook my head. Who's Ella? Aina continued saying, she was a former student here. They said she offed herself, if you know what I mean, in one of the old rooms in the old block. Some say she couldn't take the bullying. Others said she was heartbroken over a senior. But I heard from the warden she was actually depressed and no one cared about her. One day, they found her hanging inside her wardrobe. I swallowed hard. A strange feeling settled in my gut. I asked, "Which room?" Aina glanced at me and whispered, "The room that you are in now." For a moment, my heart stopped. I tried not to panic. I tried convincing myself it was just coincidence, but the strange things happening to me made it impossible to ignore the possibility that Ella's story was connected to it all. I wanted to forget the story. I wanted to continue living in a dome without being haunted by uncertain fears. But each night, the disturbances worsened, and I knew I could no longer ignore them. Well, I was determined. I needed to know the truth, but deep inside, I was hesitant. So I decided I mustered enough courage. I wanted to call up Ella through the spirit of the coin. But all kinds of questions appeared in my mind. What if I summoned something worse? What if I couldn't handle the answer? I wasn't brave enough to do it alone. So I asked Aina and 2 other roommates, Mira and Hani, to join me. At first, all of them refused, but after I told them everything that I had experienced, they finally agreed. Well, one night at 12 midnight on the dot, we lit a candle and placed a coin on a piece of paper with letters of the alphabet written on it. For those that are not familiar with this, spirit of the coin is pretty much the same as Ouija board. It's just that this is more to an Asian version, whereby instead of the plate that was used on the Ouija board, we use coin. Continue with the story. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath and placed my finger on the coin. Same goes to everybody else, Aina, Mira and Hani. I whispered, "If anyone is here, please give us a sign." At first, nothing happened, but then I felt a cold breeze. The candle flickered as if something had blown on it. Then the coin began to move on its own. So the first question I asked was, "Are you Ella?" Then the coin moved, until it says N-O. No. Mira held her breath. If it's not Ella, then who? Everybody looked at each other. Then Aina gripped my hand tightly. "Are you sure you want to keep going?" she whispered, her voice shaking. I swallowed hard. Then I continued asking, "Do you know Ella?" The coin moved slowly to Y-E-S. Yes. I swallowed again. Then I asked, "Did Ella off herself?" The coin answered, N-O. No. The hair on my arms stood up. The room now was eerily quiet. I almost didn't want to ask the next question, but Aina whispered, "Ask again. Continue asking." With a shaky breath, I asked, "Was Ella murdered?" And the coin slowly turning into a spiral shape, and it stopped at Y-E-S. Yes. My jaw tightened, my fingers trembled. I felt Aina's grip on my hand now grew stronger. Mira and Hani exchanged pale-faced glances. Who killed Ella? My voice nearly broke. The coin moved slowly as if savoring the tension in the room. One letter, then another, then another. It spelled A-K-U. For a moment, everything went silent. My breath caught in my throat. Suddenly, the candle went out on its own, and in darkness, I heard something whispered in my ear. Not the coin moving anymore.
"Do you want to meet Ella?"
We screamed in unison, shoving the board and the coin away before bolting out of the room without looking back. I had no idea what we had summoned that night, but I knew one thing. I was never going back to the dorm again. After that night, I couldn't bear to stay in the dorm anymore. I begged my parents to let me live with a relative far from the school, even though it meant waking up earlier and commuting a longer distance every day. I didn't care. I was never going back. And every time I passed by the dorm near the school, I never even dared to look up the window of my old room. So, what do you think appeared that night? Is it coincidence, or is it something really trying to reach out to Nina? What is it that actually told Nina that it was that thing that actually murdered Ella? Let me know down below in the comment section. That's all for this episode. Once again, if you have yet to do so, please help me like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Once again, this is Kim, and you're listening to Creepy with Coffee. Until the next episode.